Is Disney going to sell to Apple? Could Apple actually acquire the entertainment juggernaut known as Disney? Now, it is a story and a whisper that's been going around now for honestly a couple of years, but really started to heat up in the last year or so. And a lot of people just kind of wrote off the idea. Like, there's no way. Disney's too big to be acquired. Apple doesn't have any desire to get in that sort of thing. The FTC would never allow such a thing, all that kind of stuff. However, the whispers have persisted. And now a lot of serious analysts and even outlets like The Hollywood Reporter are now saying, hey, Apple selling or buying Disney, don't count this out. This very well could happen, and all the stars are aligning. Now, before we dive into why a lot of the analysts and a major trade like The Hollywood Reporter are now suggesting that, yeah, Apple very well could be looking to buy Disney, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind. Let's look at the history here. Apple founder Steve Jobs actually used to sit on the board of Disney. And Bob Iger himself also for a number of years sat on the board of Apple. This is a company that has a long history of working together, have a lot of deep family ties, familia, if you will, all the way back. So these are two companies that are very, very well versed with each other. Now, let's address one of the issues here that some people often bring up as soon as you suggest that Apple may buy Disney. Is that, well, I mean, Disney's too big. You can't just buy a company like Disney. Well, you can when you're Apple, because look at this. The value of Apple, their market cap price that's a company that's worth $2.79 trillion. That's with the T. I never get to say that word. Trillion. Basically $2.8 trillion. The value of Disney, $160.64 billion. These are according to the latest numbers that we looked up before we started recording this video. But 2.8 trillion to 160 billion. Apple could literally buy and sell Disney more than 15 times over. And not even blink. Not even think about it. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to buy Disney. It's just that one obstacle that people think is there, that could Apple afford to buy a company as big as Disney? Yeah. No problem. Like literally Tim Cook would go, pull like some pocket change out. Here you go. Yeah, go buy Disney. That's what they could literally do. Now, some people would also say that the FTC becomes a situation that the government would never allow two giant companies like Apple and Disney to merge. But remember, we're talking about entertainment companies. Apple is not primarily an entertainment company. As a matter of fact, as great as Apple TV Plus is, they are a relatively minor player compared to Warner Brothers, Universal, Disney, Paramount. Apple TV Plus is a relatively small player. And I would actually propose to you that such a merger would probably pass the FTC without too terrible much trouble. I mean, remember, we're not talking about Apple as their whole corporate. They're talking about the FTC would specifically be looking at, would this be creating a monopoly in the world of entertainment? Well, you would still have giant companies like Warner Brothers out there, Comcast, Universal, Paramount, and others that will still be out there. Netflix is still out there as a major. Apple, or Amazon, I should say, is still out there. So would this really be creating even a threat of a monopoly? No, it wouldn't. One big giant company, Disney, merging with what is considered to be a relatively small company, and Apple TV Plus. Now, here's the thing. Analysts have been saying for a while that if Disney wanted to sell to Apple, one of the things that Bob Iger would have to do is start to strip down Disney, because Apple's not interested in a lot of the areas that Disney is invested in. Apple's not interested in becoming a sports network. They don't want ESPN. They may not want, what's the name of those Disney channels? Is it just the Disney Channel?
Oh, DX.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Or XD, DX. XD.
Apple wouldn't be interested in that. Hell, they may not even be interested in getting into like ABC, because Disney owns ABC and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's just too much there that Apple's not interested in. So for a while, analysts have said, if Disney wanted to sell to Apple, they would have to start to divest themselves of a lot of things. Well, what have we started to see happen? Disney has started to divest themselves. They're talking about selling off ABC. There's a lot of reports going around that they're getting ready to sell off ESPN and a lot of that kind of stuff. Actually, let's go over and take a look at this. So here's the situation that this would create for something like a Disney, if you will, okay? So here's Disney. Forgive the crude thing, right? You got this big whole ship of Disney, right? And it's Disney, Disney TV or Disney XD, all that kind of stuff, ESPN, ABC. Okay, well, and they've got, Disney's got some money in the bank, right? Disney's got a little bit of money down there in the bank. But here's how Bob Iger can make Disney even more attractive, right? Well, you start by getting rid of ESPN. Well, now we don't own ESPN. But you know what by selling ESPN does? That actually puts more money in the bank because they just sold ESPN for a bunch of money. Well, then the next thing you do, you sell off ABC. And that's what the reports are saying right now that Iger's looking to do. He's looking to divest themselves of that. And what that would do is put even more money in Disney's bank. Then maybe you go ahead and you get rid of Disney XD and their various other TV enterprises. And again, that puts more money into the bank, right? You hold on to certain things. Disney Plus is clearly something Apple would be interested in merging with Apple TV Plus. You hold on to Hulu, maybe even a couple of other things too. But now all of a sudden you're looking at a streamlined, more narrowly focused Disney company that isn't bringing along a lot of the baggage that Apple would have no interest in. But also, if we go back to this, Disney, when you sell it off, you get their bank accounts too. And now their bank accounts have more free cash. That's going to be a part of the acquisition. Now, this is what they wrote in the Hollywood Reporter. They said this: not long after Iger went on television and hung a possibly for sale sign on Disney's TV business, and just like that, it was a little more possible to see the outlines of a slimmed down Disney that could be a tempting acquisition target. There clearly is no buyer like Apple, which is sitting on $62 billion in cash and cash equivalent and has a $2.8 trillion market cap, which we just talked about. And while it may be very true that Apple doesn't want to buy a studio, maybe it would want to buy this studio. The one that, despite the challenges of the moment, has a vault full of priceless IP and remains the most valuable brand in entertainment. You don't think that Tim Cook would be interested in owning Star Wars? You don't think that Tim Cook would be interested in owning Pixar? You don't think that Tim Cook would be interested in owning Marvel? Apple in the recent months have shown that they are deadly serious about their entertainment division. They recently commented, we did a story about on the show here, that they're committing $1 billion a year to theatrically released films. They're dead serious. And when you've got possibly floating out there this embarrassment of riches in a Disney body that owns Star Wars and Pixar and Marvel and decades and decades and decades of some of the most recognizable, famous, and valuable IP to ever be in entertainment. You couple that with the fact that Bob Iger seems to be doing all the things that he would need to do in order to prep Disney for a sale. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. Think about it. The person you were 5 years ago is not the exact person that you are today. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way that we do until we talk things through. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. And guys, striving for better mental health is something we should all aspire to. I've talked about this before, but when somebody goes to the gym, we applaud them for getting out there to improve their physical health. Well, it's about time that we start looking at mental health the same way, not just by encouraging the people around us to look into therapy, but by also taking the step to take care of our own mental health as well. So listen, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a short questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch speech therapists at any time for no additional charge. So discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Campea. And by the way, this is another interesting little bit of information. Remember how we were talking about how don't worry about, how much money that Apple has? Here's an interesting little fact Jonathan and I kind of broke out as we were getting ready to do this video. Okay, so in the story, we just read this, that Apple, let's go back over the screen here, is holding on to let's just say $60 billion in its bank account. Like it's a $2.8 trillion company, but just in free cash, just sitting around. They got $60 billion. Now, here's where just that number gets astronomical. I was reading a report that's saying their money is sitting in a corporate vestige account that is making Disney about 5% interest a year. That 5% interest a year equals $3 billion. Understand what that means. If Apple just said, we're shutting everything down and we're not doing anything, the money they have sitting in the bank is still generating $3 billion a year in interest by doing nothing. You want to break that in? Every month, they're making $250 million, basically. $250 million a month is being generated just from the money that's sitting in its bank account. That is how rich. That is how crazy. Look at this graphic again. That is how ridiculously rich. Oh, sorry, the other graphic, Jonathan. That is how ridiculously rich that this company is. That you can have the most famous brand in entertainment, Disney, only comparing like that to Apple. Is Disney going to sell to Apple? I honestly don't know. I've gone through ebbs and flows, believing one thing, believing the other. But I will tell you this, the reports coming out of the major trades, like the Hollywood Reporter and talking to the serious business analysts, seem compelling. That everything Bob Iger is doing right now seems to be with the intention of making Disney a more tempting acquisition. And there is nobody out there, maybe Amazon, that would be in a position that they could purchase a Disney, but it's really only Apple, Amazon, and maybe Comcast, but I can't see that happening. That is how serious this is. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm simply telling you, I won't be surprised if come the end of the year, we find out that a deal has been made between Apple and Disney. I don't think it's the craziest thing. Now, Jonathan is more into the, he understands the space of business and stocks and value share and all that kind of stuff. But Jonathan, with all the data we're looking at here, do you see some like a possible acquisition, or do you think there could be a lot of other explanations here?
I mean, yes, it could be going towards acquisition, but I mean, that's highly speculative. I think that he being Iger sees a company that needs to generate more cash, has had a rough time at it since just before the pandemic, and he's trying to cut the business wings that are just they're a drain on the company. I mean, they're dilutive. He's called them dilutive, not just in terms of like Marvel. Okay, Disney Plus shows are dilutive to Marvel, but Disney XD and ABC, they're becoming dilutive. They're not generating what they should be generating. They're becoming an anchor to the company.
And Iger referred to those as not really part of our core business.
And that should give you pause, not you personally, but anyone pause to think like, ooh, if I work here, we're not Big Papa Iger doesn't really think too highly of us right now.
So the two options on the table aren't just that he's preparing and making Disney a more lucrative and a more attractive takeover for Apple, but he could also just be, on the other hand, streamlining it down just for the sake of its own business.
The future of the company.
So, I mean, it's what do you guys think about this? There's a lot of information out there. A lot of analysts think they're prepping it to sell to Apple. A lot of analysts don't think that they are. Could they be prepping it to sell? Could they just be trying to streamline the business? Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks a lot for checking out our video. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And also, we do a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice.